Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Hands-on SAP Dev. I'm Marius Obert, and today it's actually a special episode for me because usually, as you know, I appear here as a guest, and DJ or Max are the hosts, and I will show something to them. And this time, I'm the host, and I will have a guest who will show something new to me. So I'm very excited myself. We'll have Benji, who works for the SAP Portals team, and he will show how to build extensions for the Fiori Launchpad and to build applications with dynamic tiles for the new Launchpad subscription on SAP Cloud Platform. As always, if you have questions, please let us know in the chat or leave a comment if you watch the replay. Okay, let's get started. Hi, Benji. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. I don't know how the weather in Israel is, but here in Munich, it's actually very sunny today. So it's still cold, but a good day to be in, but not too dark.
Yeah, so here in Israel, this is still hot. We are on t-shirts and everything. So yeah, not nice. Winter yet.
I wish it would be that warm here. Okay, you are, I already mentioned it briefly before the call, you're from the SAP Portals team, and today you want to show me something new. So I'm very excited also because I have some experience with this new Launchpad subscription, but not much yet.
Yes. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the HTML5 application deployments, and we are going to see how easy this is to deploy some HTML5 application and do a quick demo.
Awesome. So it's all you. Stage is yours. We can start however you want to start with.
Okay. So let's talk about what are HTML5 application. First, HTML5 application, they consist of static contents such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and other files that run on a browser. So you develop your application either in SAP Business Application Studio or in your own IDE, and you deploy them to the HTML5 application repository. And then the SAP Cloud Platform enables you to access and run the HTML5 application in a cloud environment without the need to maintain your own runtime infrastructure. So I just say that we are using something called the HTML5 application repository. So what is that? The HTML5 application repository centrally stores the application static content on the SAP Cloud Platform. So if we are taking an HTML5 application, the HTML5 application contains configuration file that we are going to see, which is used in the runtime itself of the flow. So you can define the authentication method, the authorization that you need, the routing configuration to your backend system, all that done in your XSAP JSON, something that we are going to see. So the HTML5 application repository allows application developers, so we, to manage the lifecycle of our application. In the runtime, the static content is served in secured and effective manners. So now, please let me share my screen since we are doing that live, and I'm going to show you that. So first, what I have here is my trial subscription. So as you can see, this is my cockpit, and yes, this is live. So this is taking some time. But in the trial cockpit, you can see that I'm subscribed to two different instances. The first is the SAP Business Application Studio. This is the IDE that I'm going to use today. And the second one is Launchpad. So Launchpad is the product that we at Cloud Platform we are developing now. And Launchpad, the difference in Launchpad is that it provides us the possibility to act as a central application with connection to different content providers. And then we are going to see that. So if I'm going to my Launchpad application, and then I can see my sites itself. I can see now that I've got a new content provider named HTML5 Apps. The HTML5 Apps is where are all the HTML5 that I am going to deploy in the Business Application Studio. So in the meanwhile, let's go to the Business Application Studio of my trial account and create a dev space. Let's call the dev space I don't know, demo will be a nice name, don't you think? And we are creating the demo page. So in the meanwhile, if you have question about Launchpad and why we are using and why we've done Launchpad, this may be the good time to ask here.
Yeah, so one question that I often get is that, I mean, can you click on create dev space again, the button, because on the right side there is this Launchpad module thing. So if you could explain what the Launchpad module is for a second, and when you need it or when you don't need it.
Okay, so the Launchpad is what you are seeing now. The Launchpad is the application that we at the Cloud Platform develop that is in charge of creating all the site. And the most important way and what is Launchpad, this is a central point of access to application from different content provider. So currently we are now using only HTML5 application, and HTML5 apps is the default content provider that we are using now, but you can add multiple content provider, and this is the Launchpad, and you can connect all your sites to different content providers. So
Thanks.
Now I'm back to the Business Application Studio. I'm entering my demo, my demo business, my demo workspace on the Business Application Studio. And what I'm going to do is create a new project from template. So if I'm doing that, create a project from template, wait a few seconds. And now we are going to create a SAP Fiori freestyle project because I would like to do it really from scratch. So we are doing on Cloud Foundry, and then you are doing a SAP UI5 application, really a really simple application without anything complicated, just to start and understand what we are doing. So let's, I don't know, call it HTML5 demo. This would be a nice name. And we need to talk just a second about the HTML5 application runtime that we would like now to use is not using the standalone app router. So we will not use any app router and deploy any app router. We are going to use the app router that is managed by us, by the Cloud Platform. So in order to use that, we need to create the business solution, a unique name for the business solution, and this will act as the ID. And we are going to see in the YAML just a second. So I will use HTML5 demo also as the unique name of the business solution. We are going to create a really simple app. So let's call it sample app. The namespace of this application is HTML5, and I will not have karma test. Okay. Let's use, sample view will be great and without using any data service. So now I'm going to open the workspace that we've just created. So as I already explained, now we can see in the MTA YAML, if this is back, okay. In the MTA YAML, we are creating 3 different modules. The first one is the destination content, and we are going to explain it a little bit more. This is all the application. This is the contents of the application, and we are here the destination itself, the HTML5 demo, HTML repo host. So this is the HTML5, let's say, bucket of application that we are using. And of course, we have the UAA, the user authentication. This is the parameter that we have in the destination content. We have, of course, the UI deployer. So this is connected to HTML5 repo host, of course, and we are currently using the artifacts sample app content. So this is the artifact that we are going to deploy. And of course, we've got the sample app. So this is my HTML5 sample app. Okay, so this is the beginning of creating an application. If I'm going inside the sample app application, I can see that we've got an XSAP JSON already, as we are explaining, but now we are not you are not going to add any route or anything. Well, you're just doing some sample to warm ourselves up a little bit. And we are going to see in the web app itself the manifest JSON. The manifest JSON is the part where we are going to understand and explain what we are doing in the background. So in the background, as I already explained, under the SAP Cloud Services, this is the name of the business service identifier. So this is called HTML5 demo, and this is the unique business name identifier that is unique for my currently my trial environment, but this is unique to my project itself. Okay. In order to make it available for the FLP to see this little application, I will need to add something called cross navigation. So let me add it. I've already, of course, prepared before. And this is the cross navigation. This is the inbounds of all the navigation that you will need to see in order to see a tile in the site that I will create in 1 second. So I've added, of course, the inbound, the intent one. This is currently just the first intent, and we are using only one intent, but the semantic object will be sample app, and the action will be display. I will just, for the sake of modifying the I18N properties, so the name, let's call it sample app title. The app title itself, let's call it HTML5 sample, sorry for that, app, and HTML5 sample app description, believe will be fine. So as you can see, the application itself now is totally empty, and this is what we are going to deploy. So I'm going currently, what I'm doing now is deploying the MTA YAML. The MTA YAML will create, if I'm going back to the MTA YAML, building the MTA YAML will create something that we will need for the application itself. And this is building the sample app and doing just a second. Yeah. So as you can see, the artifacts that is required for the sample app is the sample app content. So in the sample app, you can see that I've got the npm run build. This is the build parameter. And as you can see now, of course, you got the sample app content zip that is put inside my MTA archives. So now that I've got the MTA archives, the HTML5 demo archives, I'm going to deploy the MTA archive. So where do I want to deploy? First, I will need to do it on my trial account. And the most important thing that we need to talk about the trial account is that in my trial account, I've got CF. So this is the Cloud Foundry environment. In the Cloud Foundry environment, I've created an empty space. As you can see, this is an HTML5. This is the name of the space without any application and any service instance, just an empty HTML5 named space. So this is just a space without anything on it. So as you can see, the API endpoint is that. I'm going to continue and deploy it on the HTML5. Let's write my mail. And of course, my password, just a second. And I'm logging in. So let's hope that okay. So as you can see, now I will need to select the organization. So this is my organization. And of course, the only space that I've created is HTML5. So now after I'm logging in, I'm going to deploy the multi-target app application. sorry, the multi-target app, application, the MTAR. So as you can see now in the deployment, we are going to see that we are creating the service that we have in the MTA YAML. We are going to build and create the HTML5 app host service, the destination service, of course, the access UAA service for the more complicated thing using the access security JSON. As you can see here, we are using the relevant scope that we are getting from the cockpit itself. So this is making everything ready in order to do some bigger application.
Okay, cool. Just for me to summarize what you've done so far, what I remember of it. So you used the wizard of the Business Application Studio to create a new project, and you made sure that it is managed by SAP Cloud Platform and doesn't have the standalone app router, right?
Exactly.
And
so now you can see there is no app router at all in the HTML5 demo template that I'm using, right?
Cool. I think that also makes the deployment way faster then. So I have to hurry up. What's I think the only code modification that you've done was in the manifesto JSON that you added cross navigation, correct?
Exactly. This is the only thing that I've done. And yes, as you said, this is really a fast deployment. And as you can see, this is really, really fast deployment for us that remember the difference between app router and creating the app router. But yes, the only thing is the cross navigation. And let me go to the site manager back. So now what I'm going to show is that in the content provider itself, in the HTML5 apps, I can now fetch my updated content. So let's just fetch from the HTML5 repository that we've got the new created application. Okay, so now we can see that we have last modify and got my HTML5 application. Let's go to the Content Explorer, choose my content provider, and you can see that we have here my HTML5 sample apps. So let's add it to my content. And of course, go to my content, add it to the everyone roles. This is just for a demo, but this will be okay. And of course, we are going to use it in the demo group in order to see the tile in the FLP. So I'm going to create a site for the sake of calling everything demo. Let's call it demo. And now we can see that since we created, we put the application on the everyone role, this should be, of course, should be under the demo group. Then, as you can see, there is a demo group with HTML5 sample app application itself. And we are going to click it just for the sake, as I probably explained it, yeah. There is currently just a title, the sample app title, without anything important. If we are going to see the, going back to what you talked about, the only thing that I've changed is here, and now you can see this is the sample app display. So this is the semantic object and action. That is what we can see here in the intent, okay? So this is the deployment of a really simple application. But this is a really simple application, and this is the first time that I am deploying this application. So yes, of course, everything is fine, everything is nice. But let's do something to show that we've got a little bit more possibilities here with the HTML5 application. Let's say that I will want to update the view of the sample view. Okay, so I've, of course, I've prepared something really nice just to show some progress indicators and just changing the view itself, or in the matter of changing the component, but this is just to see that we are updating the application, okay? So the only thing that we need to do in order to update an application is to build the MTAR again and to deploy it again. And as you can see, this is going to be quite fast, because the only thing that we are going to update, and as you can see, we already have the MTAR, is the application itself. And now we are going to deploy the MTAR application, okay? So if I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the features of HTML5 application in my point of view, and yeah, in the team point of view. If we've got zero downtime enablement. So as you can see now, and currently I'm deploying to the HTML5 repo, my app is still on, and I can go and use my sample app, and everything will be fine, and everything will be okay. So I am not killing anything. I'm not updating the app router. Everything is managed for myself. So you can update the static content of the HTML5 application, and during while I'm talking to you, I'm updating everything. And for the explanation, currently my app is currently everything is up and running, and everything is okay. Of course, that since we are not using the app router and we've got everything managed by, let's call it by itself or something, but yeah, so it's managed by itself, so it's managed by us. And you can see that the application content is cached, is optimized for high performance and minimal network load. So this is something that we are getting. And of course, since this is managed by an app router, you still got the services of multiple instance of runtime if needed to scale for high load application. So now I'm going back just in order to update the content. The thing that I will need to do is to fetch the content again and wait to be updated. Okay, as you can see now, I've got my HTML sample up. Let's go to my site, and of course you can see that my HTML5 sample application is now totally changed. Nice. without any downtime. So I believe that this was easy, right? So what can we do? Now I'm going to talk about something a little bit different, but we are going to create a new application. We are going to create a new HTML5 application, and this type now is going to be a little bit different. I want to show a shell plugin. So a shell plugin is also something that you can deploy in this scenario. And let's do it. Okay?
Yeah, I'd be happy.
Okay, so I'm going to click on the MTA YAML and create a new MTA module. The new MTA module, for now, since I really love using a nice name, this is going to be shell plugin. Of course, this is going to be an empty SAP UI5 application. The namespace, in order to get the same namespace as before, is going to be HTML5. And I'm going to add a shell view name for the view. Okay? Nope, I will not save the password. I didn't put any password, but this is okay. So here you can see the MTA YAML. The MTA YAML automatically created a new shell plugin. This is the shell plugin content, and of course you can see the shell plugin is the new HTML5 shell plugin, and we are going to build this shell plugin. So what is a shell plugin? A shell plugin is something that is shown in the shell. So we will need to explain to the manifest JSON that now we need to deal with a shell plugin. So the biggest difference between a shell plugin is that now we are, of course, starting with the cross navigation, and the cross navigation here is going to be a little bit different since we are not using the intent, the normal intent. We are using the shell plugin intent. So the inbound will be named shell plugin. And of course, the semantic object will be shell and action will be plugin. Everything, of course, is documented, and I will, of course, link to the official documentation, and everything will be there. So this is nothing that I am inventing, or this is really, really simple stuff. But there is something.
Also, sorry to interrupt you. I think line 25 is also very interesting because then we won't see this the launcher tile later on, right?
Exactly. So the IDE launchers, thank you very much for pointing that out. Yes, the IDE launcher is true since we don't need a launcher. We don't need to see, and if I'm going back to my application, I will not like to see it as a tile, okay? So this is not a tile, this is going to be a shell plugin on top of the shell plugin. So since this is a shell, I will need to explain another thing to SAP FLP. This is the type of this application, and this is what I am putting here. So the SAP FLP type will be plugin, and here you can put all the config. But since we are doing a really simple plugin type, I'm leaving this empty. Okay. So I'm going to get a little bit in the code, and let's go to the component. Nope. Okay, this will be enough. So let's go to the component itself. And in the component itself, what I would like to do, I will just put some code here that was, of course, pre-written, is we are going to init. Init and use something really nice. We are going to update the Fiori tool renderer extension and add an header and item. This is just an icon that we are putting. This is a SAP portal named. This is the tooltip itself. Let's call it the SAP portal. And when we are pressing on this header item, we are going to open a new window to sap.com. So this is just for showing that everything is okay. So of course I need to update my SAP UI defines and all my import and make it work as I want. Okay, so now I am importing, of course, the icon pool, the object path, and the shell add item from the SAP U shell UI shell add item. And this is the only thing that I need in order to update my my shell plugin and make a really simple plugin. When we are when we are pushing this little shell icon, we are going to see it on opening a new window to sap.com. So let's now, I believe that this is going to be easy. What we are going to do, exactly as previously, we are going to build the MTA. In the build MTA itself, now, as you can see, previously we add only the sample app content zip. Now we are going to add, of course, the new application, HTML5 application called the shell plugin. So this is going to be yes. So this is the new content zip, and we are done creating the MTA. So as you can see, the MTA here is really faster since we are doing less hard work on this MTAR. And we are going to deploy. So this is something that I believe that now we are getting quite familiar with, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So yes, so now I am deploying the HTML5 demo MTAR, and as you can see, my application is still running. Everything is fine. My customer can continue and using my wonderful application called Sample App without any disruption during the deployment time. And this is something really important. So we are only updating the HTML5 content and not the app router. We are not causing any downtime, and there is nothing really that you can see in the runtime itself and feel in the runtime itself until you are updating your content. So this is a really nice thing that we will talk about. So Marius, as a previous, I believe that you already used the app router, right? The app router way of deploying HTML5 application. Is this easier and faster?
Yes, so I mean, as I mentioned in the beginning, I already did a couple of experiments with this server or managed by SAP Cloud Platform approach, and I really like it a lot. But the only thing I've done so far is that I just deployed simple UI5 applications as what you've done in the beginning. So I haven't done more complex things like these shell plugins. And actually, I've never written a shell plugin myself, so this is really new to me.
So this is nice. Of course, everything that I'm showing now is just for the sake of the demo, and this is just some demo code. But this is a good start for understanding the potential of everything that I am showing now. So yes. So as you can see, while we were talking, the HTML5 application was activated already, and now you can see in the Content Explorer that we have a new HTML5 shell plugin. This is called shell view, since I didn't change the I18N name, and I'm going to add it to my content. As you can see, I will need to be able to see it, so let's add it for the sake of the demo to the shell view the shell view to the everyone role and save it. So now I'm going back. Of course, something important that I need to say, since this is an HTML5 shell plugin application, and as you can see, this is a shell plugin. We don't need to add to the group since there is no tile. So of course, you will not see it as something that you can add to the group. Okay. So this is something a little bit different. And now, if I'm going to my site, I can see that there is a new nice icon named SAP Portal. And when I'm clicking on that, I'm going to the SAP.com site. So this is
cool.
a really, really, really simple showcase of adding a shell plugin. So now I'm going to do something a little bit different and something a little bit more complicated. Okay, I'm going to do something called dynamic tile. What is dynamic tile? And in the meanwhile, let me put some code inside my my bus site. Great. So now I'm uploading files. What is the server demo? The server demo that I am adding is something that I will need in order to create a fake backend. Okay. So I'm going to put in the backend itself a new module that I will call the backend app. Okay, so the backend app is located under the server demo backend. In the meanwhile, I'm going to build and deploy that. But if we are explaining what is the server demo, the server's demo is really, really simple. Of course, I'm doing everything simple. This is an Express application with JWT decode. And what this is doing, this is creating in a route. In a route, we are getting some data named count. Okay, what is count? This is a random number, just a number. And we are going to showcase and explain exactly what this is mimicking. So I'm going to deploy my MTA archives and going to set my application a little bit, since this will need the XSUAA to be configured as needed. The second thing that I will like to talk about is the fact that now I'm trying to create my new HTML5 application. Okay. The new application that I'm going to create, in the meanwhile, of course, you can see that I am deploying my HTML5 new server demo. So this is really static content that is connected to the UAA. But now we are going to create something called, let's call it dynamic tile, since I really like using simple names. So this is also going to be a really, really, really simple app. And we are going to add authentication as we already did and use the same namespace. Of course, let's call, I don't know, let's call it, yep. Let's go with dynamic view. I believe that this should be great since we are doing some demo code. And the data service currently is no. Okay, so of course, now I am creating, as you can see, I'm still creating my backend application, creating one instance of my backend application, and this is going to be on my space. But this is just to show that we can use any backend that we will like and get this information. So this is currently a number generated between 1 and 1000, I believe. Yes, 1 and 1000 not included, of course. And we are going to get some information from that tile. So let's go to the dynamic tile new MTA module that we've created. And as we are already creating, we are going to update a little bit the SAP app. So what is now different in the SAP app of the dynamic tile? The only first big difference that we are doing is the cross navigation itself. So as you can see now, and of course, yep, this is pasting some data. Okay, so as you can see, the cross navigation now has exactly the same inbound intent that we've created. Of course, the semantic object is dynamic and display. But now we've got a really new part of the cross navigation is the indicator data source. The indicator data source will place a new request for the path that we would like to see in the FLP tile. So now we said that we would like to, of course, use the data source main service and use the count path. But I didn't create this data source. So let's create this data source, of course, still under the SAP app. And we are going to do it right now. So the data source itself is with two routes. First is main service. The main service URI is to the we are using, of course, the route for the application itself, and then we are using items. Okay. And if I am using a new route, as you already know, but we'll need to update the XSAP JSON and create that route. Okay. So as you can see, my application is already updated, and I can see that I'm going to be able to use my application. Next, I will need to, of course, see that my route is correctly typed. So if I'm going to the route itself, I can see that everything is going to the HTML5 repo runtime, but I would like to update a little bit the source code here, since I will need to route everything that is called to items. So /items will go to a destination that I will call backend. The destination will use the XSUAA authentication type. Okay, so let's configure the XSUAA authentication type. I'm going back now to the destination of my trial account. I've pre-configured, and of course, yep, I'm going to reload since my session is over. But as you can see, in a second, I pre-configured a destination, really simple destination. In just a second, called backend. In the backend, of course, you can see the URL is going to the backend app. What is the backend app? If I'm going back to my space and my HTML5 space, HTML5, you can see now that I've got a new application under my HTML5. This is the backend app. So as you can see, there is now an application route. So I am mapping the URL in the route called backend to the URL of this application that, just for the sake of the demo, is inside the same trial account, but it can be, of course, an external application on a different sub account or everything. The thing that I will need to do is, since we are using UAA and XSUAA, I will need to update the client ID and the client secret. So this is something that I will need to update now. Let's update the client ID. And of course, the client secret to my just created application that of course will be removed, and save it. Okay, so now this is everything that is need to be done in order to use my items route on this application and connect it to the backend destination. And the backend destination, of course, is the server demo application that is currently returning me a number between 1 and 1000. And everything is, of course, with authentication. And authentication is done via the Access UAA. So I believe that this is a really more complex scenario, but yet this is something quite simple and straightforward, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to put a little bit more code in my dynamic view controller, and just in order, I will just do something like that. I'm going to use a message toast, and the message toast will be there. So everything, I will explain exactly what I want to show and what I want to see. But yes, of course. So now just let's do that, and this will be okay. Okay. So now I am updating the controller to add a new function named onPress, and when we are doing the onPress click, we are getting the user scope. What is the user scope? We just want to see that the UAA and the JOT is really explained and decoded as needed, and you have the access to your to the data of the UAA. So everything is connected as needed. Okay. Of course, I'm going to update a little bit the component.js. And no, that sounds okay for me. And let's look a little bit at the view. Make it show just two different VBox under one page. So yes, we are going to update the pages, and yes, we have a page. App title is okay, the user scope, and we are using here the user scope, user token, the text is okay, and everything is fine. Okay, so we are going to update just a little bit to show that we are using the HTML5 dynamic tile. This is going to be the name of my app. And of course, let's call it HTML5 dynamic app description. And I believe that this should be fine. Yes, this should be fine. So if I'm going to sum up everything that I've done while I'm building the MTA, and this is something that we are just knowing that we need to do, and this is the updating of the MTA and create a new MTA. What I've created is two different HTML5 application. The one is really not a HTML5 application. This is a server demo. So I am putting everything under my space and creating the route. The server demo is going to return me an application. And this application is going to be linked to a backend destination with UAA that I've already pre-configured in the cockpit. I'm deploying while I'm talking the HTML5 demo mtar, of course, and the dynamic tile that we've created, that if we are looking at the access app JSON, everything under the items, we are going to go to the backend using the authentication that we are getting from the Access UAA. And the updated manifest JSON here is that we are using an indicator data source, and this indicator is located to the data source of the main service the main service is looking at the location of the HTML5 demo. So this is the first, if you remember at the beginning, we called the wow, this is the namespace, sorry, this is the namespace of the unique ID that we can see in the MTA YAML. So this is, you can see, yep, HTML5 demo. So let's call it OK. So this is the HTML5 demo that we are I need to find it.
It is also the value in the manifesto.json for the SAP Cloud property, right?
Of course. And since we are doing that with the create HTML5 application, this is the name of the SAP Cloud Service HTML5. You are totally right. So as you can see, now I am building everything up and uploading to my application. So yes, the SAP Cloud service name is HTML5 demo. So this is the HTML5 demo. HTML5 dynamic tile is the ID without the little point, of course. HTML5 dynamic tile is the ID of my application, and we are going to items. This is the route that we have just configured in the XSAP JSON. So this is the flow. I believe that this is quite a little bit more complicated than the previous flow, but still we are talking about a quite simple flow, just the configuration backend and calling that backend without, of course, calling any app router, and everything is hidden from the developer. So we are using the managed app router. So as you can see now, the application deployment is taking a little bit more time, but this is still quite fast and quite okay. Of course, I'm using the trial, so trial is a little bit is not exactly the closest server to me, so this is taking a little bit more time with my Wi-Fi connection and everything, but this is quite okay, right?
Yes, and this time we also deploy the backend component again, right? That also takes some time.
Yes, of course. So of course I could have removed the application now that the application is up and running. I could remove the application itself, but this is just for the sake of the demo. I'm leaving it here and everything is okay. So as you can see, I've created, I'm going to continue working. Thank you. And we are going to do exactly the same thing that we have already done. We are going to update the HTML5 apps. We are getting my content that is updated. I'm going to the Content Explorer, and let's hopefully see the new HTML5 dynamic tile that I've just created. So the HTML5 dynamic app description is okay. Let's just add it to my everyone role. I need to add it to the HTML5 dynamic tile. This is great. And update, of course, the demo group to contain the HTML5 dynamic tile. So if everything is configured correctly, I'm going to the runtime and I'm going to see something really nice. I'm going to see exactly, and what I wanted to show on the other screen, of course, is this little number. What is this little number? This is the dynamic tile. The little number that you can see, and if I'm doing this on the network, let's do it again. The little, I believe that the network is not shown, right? Okay.
No.
Okay, so let's put it in the same window, since this is important for me to show that we are using the backend. Okay, so now we are using the backend connector to use something a little bit different, something named count. Let's filter, and you can see that now I am going and using the HTML5 demo, HTML5 dynamic tile /item/count, and I'm getting my response. My response is a number, a random number between 1 and 999, inclusive this time. So yes, this is working, and I'm getting this little info. So what is the use case of this info? This could be, of course, the number of mails of the user. This could be really anything, since this is a number that you are getting using UAA. So this is a secure number with the correct JOT that you are getting, and everything is connected. So this is a dynamic tile. Of course, inside the application, and we'll now close, I can see that I'm getting the user scope. And since this is a trial account, I don't have any scope on my user, but everything is okay. And if I had any scope on my UAA, I could be able to see it. So this sum up, I believe, the 3 different applications that I wanted to show and explain the deployment of. So in the last, I believe, 40 minutes or maybe a little bit more, we've talked about deploying 3 different applications. The first was the sample app. The sample app, we've shown a really simple HTML5 application with an empty UI5 component and nothing really important. But then we updated the view and just redeployed the mtar. The mtar was really light, and this was really easy. We just had to go to the site manager, update in the content providers, update it, and since we update everything and everything was updated, the view was magically, let's call it magic, updated without any downtime on the runtime. So this was the first thing that we've shown. The second thing that we've shown is how, in the same simple way, we could add a shell plugin. A shell plugin here is a really simple shell plugin. We are just adding a little button that is pointing to sap.com site. And in the same way, we just add to update the manifest JSON of this shell plugin. And as you can see here, the manifest JSON update was to, as you exactly said, the IDE launcher is through. Shell plugin itself, we updated it to use the semantic object shell plugin. And of course, we are saying that to FLP that this type of this SAP FLP is a plugin. So you don't need to show it as a tile. So this is important. And then we've deployed in the MTA YAML, of course, we add that this is not related to HTML5, but I use the MTA YAML to deploy an application called backend app. The backend app application is using UAA, and we are, with the UAA, generating a random number between 1 and 100. This application, as I explained, is connected through the destinations. So as you can see here, we are going to the backend app application. We configured, of course, the client ID and client secret of the application to be linked as a UAA and use the authentication method. And we created a dynamic tile. This dynamic tile, of course, is in the manifest JSON. You can see that we have the semantic object dynamic display, of course, but now I've created something called the indicator data source. The data source is the HTML5 demo. So this is, as you already said, this is the SAP Cloud Service name, and adding the ID of the application, HTML5 dynamic tile, and creating a new route, name items. Okay. Since I've created a new route, I had to create, of course, the XSAP JSON in the update and create a link to the destination, to the destination named backend. So this is the items, and everything that is called item will go to the backend. All the rest will go to the HTML5 app repo runtime. And since we are using the authentication type XSUAA, of course, everything is using the XSUAA. And as you can see in my content, I can see the shell view. So this is the shell plugin, the sample app that we've created, and of course the dynamic tile. And this is under my site. Everything was done, I believe, under 45 minutes, something like that. So this is quite fast for a setup like that. And of course, this is just a sample of what you can do using these new features, and the way that this is really, really easy to start coding and doing something really, really amazing in a little time. Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, I said it, I haven't done a shell plugin so far, and I also haven't used dynamic tiles, but it looks really easily. It's just like 2 or 3 additional lines of code in the manifested JSON compared to a regular UI5 application. And that's really all you need to do, right?
Yes, this is exactly what you need to do. You don't need to mess with any app router configuration or something really, really important. You just need to configure as needed the manifest JSON, and that's okay. This is working.
Awesome. And also what I liked is the way you showed this, the token exchange. We didn't talk about it in detail, but it's very interesting that you can just use it to exchange a token from one application to a token for another application, and the user doesn't have to re-log in, for example.
Yes, of course. So since here I'm using the backend, my backend is connected through client ID and client secret. What is the client ID and client secret? This is the client ID and client secret of the application that I've created under my my space. So this could be, of course, done in another space, in another organization, in another everything, but this is just for the sake of the deployment and making it fast. But yeah, you can see in the environment variable, this is what I've configured, and I'm linking those to the destination and the application to using the credential here. So yeah, this is really, really nice and fast. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. So thanks for showing this to me and to everyone on this live stream. And yeah, it was great to have you there. I hope we'll have the opportunity in the future to do another session about another topic maybe again.
Yeah, I'm doing even more advanced subject, and to get our end dirty and do some code and something a little bit more complicated. Yeah, of course.
Amazing. Cool. Okay, so yeah, thanks for being here, and I guess I'll see you next time then.
Yep. Thank you very much.